When the nuclear alert sounds, there is no time to question, no time to search for confirmation, and no room for hesitation. The sound or message will feel unreal at first, a cold, official voice cutting through your normal day to deliver the most devastating warning you could ever hear. Nuclear strike detected. Seek immediate shelter. In that moment, the difference between life and death will be measured in seconds, and your survival will depend entirely on your ability to act without delay. Most people will lose precious moments trying to decide if the message is real, but you cannot afford that. Emergency agencies do not issue such warnings unless the threat is imminent. The instant you hear it, you must move. Your only objective is to get inside the nearest, strongest shelter you can find, and you must do it now. The best protection comes from putting as much solid material between you and the outside world as possible. Concrete buildings, especially those with multiple stories or underground basements, offer far greater protection than wood or glass. If you are outdoors, do not waste time trying to get home or find loved ones. In a real strike scenario, there simply isn't time. If you are in a vehicle, abandon it immediately. A car offers almost no resistance to the blast wave or to radiation, and staying inside will greatly reduce your odds of survival. As you move, keep scanning your surroundings for anything that can shield you from the effects of the explosion. A basement, an underground parking garage, or even the center of a large, windowless building will give you a much better chance than remaining outside. The thicker and denser the walls, the more they will absorb both the thermal pulse and the deadly gamma radiation that follows. Once inside, get as far from windows and exterior walls as possible, moving toward the deepest or lowest point available. Radiation travels in straight lines, so the more layers of dense material you can put between yourself and the blast, the safer you will be. A position underground or in the center of a large building can reduce your exposure dramatically compared to staying at the edge. As you reach your position, prepare for the blast itself. You may not see the fireball, but you will feel the shockwave. Lie flat on the floor with your head down, preferably behind a heavy object or wall that can absorb flying debris. Shield your head and neck with your arms, and keep your mouth slightly open to reduce the risk of injury from sudden pressure changes. Avoid looking toward any bright flash, as even a brief glance can cause permanent blindness. These actions may seem small in the face of something so catastrophic, but they can make the difference between surviving the initial detonation and becoming one of its immediate casualties. In the first minute, there's no outrunning the blast, no negotiating with the threat, there's only decisive action. Get inside, get deep, and protect yourself. If you do, you will have crossed the first deadly threshold, and the fight for survival will move into its next stage. The blast has passed, but the danger is far from over. If you are still conscious, your ears ringing and your surroundings trembling, resist the instinct to rush outside or look around. The world beyond your shelter has changed in ways you cannot yet see. The heat wave may have ignited fires. The shock wave may have destroyed buildings. And the air outside may already be carrying invisible death in the form of radioactive particles. Your immediate task is to stay where you are and strengthen your position. Fallout begins to form within minutes of a nuclear detonation as the explosion pulls debris, soil, and building materials high into the atmosphere. These particles become irradiated and will begin to drift back down, settling over everything in their path. This fallout is invisible, silent, and lethal, delivering high doses of radiation to anyone exposed. The first hours after a detonation are the most dangerous because radiation levels are at their peak. Leaving shelter during this time can be a fatal mistake. If you're indoors, stay away from doors and windows. Seal any gaps, cracks, or vents you can find using duct tape, plastic sheeting, wet towels, or any available materials. The goal is to prevent contaminated air and dust from entering your space. If there are other people with you, quickly assess injuries. Bleeding should be controlled immediately, and burns cooled with clean water if possible. Do not waste precious water supplies on cleaning unless contamination is suspected, and even then, use it sparingly. If you suspect you have been exposed to fallout, perhaps because you were caught outside during or immediately after the blast. Remove your outer layer of clothing carefully, avoiding shaking or brushing it, as this can release radioactive dust into the air. Place it in a sealed plastic bag and store it far from where you're taking shelter. Then wash exposed skin with soap and water if available, but do not scrub harshly, as this can allow particles to penetrate deeper. Communication systems may be down, but if you have access to a battery-powered or hand-crank radio, turn it on and listen for official updates. Emergency broadcasts will be your only reliable source of information about when it is safe to move. The temptation to leave your shelter to check on loved ones or see the damage will be strong. But the invisible hazard outside will kill far faster than you can help anyone. The thicker and more solid your shelter, the longer you can afford to wait inside. Remember that radiation levels drop significantly over time, by about 50% within the first hour, and to 1/10 after 7 hours, but they will still be dangerously high for the first 24 to 48 hours. This waiting period is a test of patience and discipline. Panic, poor decisions, and unnecessary movement can undo the survival you secured in the first minute. In this phase, your best weapon is stillness. Your shield is the barrier between you and the outside, and your focus must be on conserving resources, staying alert, and listening for the moment when it is finally safe to emerge. The first full day after the blast is the longest and most dangerous stretch of time you will ever experience. You are alive, but survival is now a matter of endurance. Outside your shelter, the landscape has been transformed into a silent, smoldering ruin, but the far greater danger remains invisible. Radioactive fallout still blankets the ground, drifting on the wind, clinging to every surface. The air itself may carry tiny particles that, if inhaled, ingested, or absorbed through the skin, will deliver lethal doses of radiation. Inside your shelter, time moves slowly, and every sound outside feels amplified. The instinct to look to check, to confirm what has happened is overwhelming, but stepping out before the radiation has decayed to safer levels can seal your fate. You must treat your shelter like a lifeboat adrift in a toxic ocean. If you have a radiation meter, it becomes your most valuable tool, guiding you toward the moment you can move. Without one, your only lifeline is official emergency broadcasts. These broadcasts, if still functioning, will relay essential updates about fallout patterns, safe corridors, and evacuation routes. If you cannot receive them, you must rely on the known decay pattern of radiation and plan to remain inside for at least 48 hours longer if possible. In this period, every decision must conserve resources. Water is more important than food, and food more important than comfort. Keep all supplies sealed to prevent contamination. If others share your shelter, ration carefully and maintain as much calm as possible. Fear spreads faster than hunger, and panic can cause mistakes. Doors opened unnecessarily, contaminated items handled without care, movements that risk exposure. If you were injured during the blast, now is the time to treat wounds as best you can, keeping them clean and covered. Radiation exposure weakens the body's ability to heal and fight infection, so even minor injuries can become life-threatening if neglected. If your shelter is compromised, structurally unstable, flooding, or filling with smoke, relocating may become unavoidable. In that case, you must move quickly, keeping exposure to the absolute minimum. Cover your mouth and nose with a cloth. Wear as many layers as possible to shield skin. And move only to a location that is immediately safer and better protected. Avoid traveling far or into open areas, as fallout hotspots can vary dramatically over short distances. Even without direct blast damage, entire neighborhoods may be uninhabitable for weeks. In the stillness of these first 2 days, your mind will replay what happened again and again, but dwelling on the past will not help you survive the present. Focus on staying hidden, staying sealed, and staying alive. Every hour you remain sheltered brings radiation levels down and increases. Your odds of walking out into a world forever changed, but still offering the possibility of life. The moment you step out of your shelter will feel like waking from a nightmare into another one. The world outside will be quiet, the air heavy, the sky perhaps dimmed by dust and ash. You will have survived the initial blast, the crushing overpressure, and the deadly peak of radiation, but now you face a different kind of challenge, navigating a shattered environment while avoiding lingering dangers. Before leaving, assess your situation one final time. If you have any way to measure radiation, use it. Even if readings are lower than they were, there may still be hotspots outside, especially in areas where fallout settled heavily. If you have no meter, time is your guide. After 48 hours, radiation will have dropped dramatically, but pockets of danger can remain for days. Cover yourself as much as possible before stepping outside. Wear thick clothing, gloves, and something to cover your mouth and nose to prevent inhaling dust. Every inch of fabric between you and the environment is another barrier against contamination. Once outside, your priority is to locate safer, more sustainable shelter. Your initial hiding place may have been enough to survive the first days, but it might not protect you from the longer-term hazards of fallout, structural collapse, or lack of resources. Move carefully and deliberately. Avoid touching surfaces unnecessarily. And do not eat or drink anything from the open environment unless you are certain it is uncontaminated. Water sources such as rivers, lakes, and rain collection systems may now carry radioactive particles. If you must drink, use water you stored indoors or water that has been sealed since before the detonation. As you travel, the signs of destruction will be overwhelming: buildings reduced to skeletons, vehicles burned out on the roads, streets littered with debris. Power lines will hang twisted and dead, and the absence of any normal city noise will make the silence oppressive. If you see fires, steer well clear. They can stir up contaminated dust and spread it over a wider area. Your next objective is information. Search for an operational emergency shelter, military checkpoint, or relief center. These will be focal points for survivors and are more likely to have medical care, clean water, and organized evacuation routes. Approach cautiously and follow any decontamination procedures they require. The hours after leaving your shelter are critical, not only for your immediate safety, but for your long-term survival. You must secure food and water, find stable shelter, and protect yourself from any secondary strikes or infrastructure failures that may still be unfolding. You are now part of a reduced and scattered population, and cooperation with others may be your greatest asset. But always weigh trust against necessity. The disaster will have stripped away normal social structures, and desperation can make people unpredictable. Above all, remember that survival in the aftermath is not a sprint, it is a marathon. You have lived through the most violent moment humanity can produce. Your greatest challenge now is to endure the slow, grinding days that follow, adapting to a world where everything familiar has been taken. Yet the will to live remains.